am sorry for being late on this. I unfortunately ran into one of the most pathetic types of people that you could ever run into at a theater, so I had to reschedule my viewing. But boy oh boy was I giggling when the first thing I heard was Travis Scott rapping about the Trojan War. Not once, but twice! Yes, the piece of shit who incites violence has been validated by an entire industry. Keep us free! Where do I even begin with this movie? From all the controversy surrounding it, to the insane casting, to the adaptation being adapted, everything about this movie is insane. Immersion was something I struggled with throughout the film, since everyone's speaking in this modern English slang that's trying to be Shakespearean, but not really.
You're pining for a daddy you didn't even know. Like some sniveling bastard.
With a diverse cast that I don't know how to feel about it, but what I will say about it is at least they went all the way. Because most Hollywood projects that preach diversity usually end in blackness. What do I mean by that? I mean, as long as the movie has black people in it, that fills the diversity quota. There ain't no Asians, Mexicans, Canadians, or any other colored folk. It's just black people because they're the only color that matters. At least here in the Odyssey, they had every color, all of whom had at least one line or two or a camera on them. That's what I call diversity. But goddamn, did they do the Asian guy dirty? And like always, people on the internet are absolutely losing their shit over the critic scores, grifting like they always do. One moment people are saying how they don't care what critics or online scores say, and the next they're absolutely preaching how the scores have proven the conservative chuds wrong. Even though it's been widely revealed and known that these scores are utterly meaningless, and historically, evidently, critics are corporate shills who will pander to anyone. But I'm not here to talk politics. I've never read the Odyssey, and I don't care to ever read the Odyssey. I don't care to know what happened to the Greeks or Romans. I'm not a fucking Spartan nerd. I want to talk about this movie and if it's worth your time in theaters. I don't care if it's accurate or inaccurate to the actual story of Odysseus or the Bronze Age. I just want to be entertained. And with that being said, this is a Christopher Nolan movie. We follow Odysseus, portrayed by the legendary Matt Damon, who is trying to lead his men back home after the Trojan War, which has lasted 10 years. But of course, like every tragic Greek tale, it's never that simple. Odysseus and his men must battle not only the elements of the ocean, but the gods and the mythical creatures that stand in their way. Meanwhile at home, Telemachus and his brother Penelope, portrayed by Tom Holland and Anne Hathaway, are struggling to maintain power since noblemen from neighboring islands are trying to marry Penelope, with Odysseus presumed dead. Will Odysseus and his men survive their treacherous endeavor across the Mediterranean Sea? Will Telemachus and Penelope be able to hold out until Odysseus arrives, if he does survive? I guess that's for you to find out. When I say that this is a Christopher Nolan movie, I mean that in the most literal sense when going through his filmography. Nolan's ability to capture scale in the most epic way possible is here, and boy do I fucking love it. I am a sucker for beautiful wide shots that really showcase a setting, and man does this movie look god damn sexy. Woo! As frustrating as Nolan can be with his reluctance to use CGI, I can't deny his prowess for designing sequences that feel 1000% real. From the ships to the islands to the city of Troy, everything feels alive. Of course, this is all thanks to the real sets that are built, but you get what I'm saying. The production is awesome. There's no other way to put it, and Nolan can cast anyone he wants because everyone is lined up to work for him no matter the size of the role. With his masterful filmmaking also comes his horrible writing and editing. Holy shit, this movie is almost as convoluted as Oppenheimer, and I love that movie. But I'm not gonna stand here and pretend that Oppenheimer is a masterpiece, because it's not. Upon revisiting, it is a confusing mess of a story told through different perspectives and timelines. Exactly what's happening in the Odyssey, except it's just less. I had to watch Oppenheimer a few times to really get a grasp of the narrative, but I could at least somewhat follow what was happening here, whenever the music wasn't overpowering the actor's dialogue. Side note, who the fuck are the audio engineers working for Nolan? Huh? Because, I'd like to have a word with them peacefully. Of course, I would never physically abuse anyone for annoying the absolute shit out of me. Can you guys hear me? Can you? Do you like not knowing what characters are saying because the score is so fucking loud? At this point, let's just turn on the subtitles, okay? I don't care anymore. Put on the subtitles in the theater so I can read what the actors are trying to say in English. Apparently, Nolan hasn't figured out how to properly shoot and edit a conversation between characters, so every scene is just cutting back and forth. Back and forth, back and forth. No, we can't have a long wide take of both actors in the same shot having a dialogue. We need to cut on every sentence because audiences are gonna get bored. Beyond the technicalities, Nolan's writing has never been the best, and ever since Inception, he's consistently had the same problem with every project he's a part of. That is style over substance. Who here remembers anything about Interstellar other than the epic docking sequence? Is there a character anyone can recall from Dunkirk? What's the story of Oppenheimer? While there is definitely an argument to be made about how he tells his stories, there's no doubt that he prioritizes the aesthetic of his films, and that's fine. But give someone else the reins when it comes to writing and editing and sound design and everything else, really. Just stick to being a director, man. You know, if Zack Snyder just stuck to being a cinematographer, he'd probably have a more successful career. With all that being said, I felt nothing towards the end of the Odyssey. I didn't really care about any of the characters and their goals. Telemachus' mission to find Odysseus felt like Murph trying to stay relevant in Interstellar. Penelope's struggle to hold on to hope for Odysseus' return felt irrelevant since the film barely, if at all, took a moment to emphasize or show the amount of time that has passed since the Trojan War. Odysseus, of course, is the standout here, with his storyline being the most interesting because he's not exactly on his way home at the moment. Without spoiling too much, he's currently trapped on an island with no memory of what happened to him or who he was before, and as the film progresses, he slowly remembers all the events that led up to his current predicament. So the movie is jumping back and forth from the past to the present, from Tom Holland's perspective to Matt Damon's perspective, with some Penelope and Antinous sprinkled throughout, portrayed by Robert Pattinson, who is, I guess, the lead antagonist of the film. Which is another thing to get into, because all the suitors who are antagonizing Penelope and Telemachus are being led by Antinous, I guess. Or they just have more respect for him. I don't know, he's barely in the movie. Apparently, I've been pronouncing Tom Holland's character's name wrong. It's pronounced Telemachus, not Telemachus. Just letting you guys know. Same thing with Zendaya, Elliot Page, Mia Goth, John Bernthal, and Benny Safdie as Agamemnon. Look, it's pretty awesome to be such a great director that everyone will line up for you, but I think casting all of these recognizable actors is a detriment to the film. All of these small parts could be going to other actors that could use the credit and paycheck. It's just distracting, and don't get me started with John Leguizamo and Lupita Nyong'o, who are the epitome of hypocrisy. This movie feels like it's struggling to juggle these storylines and manage all of these actors. While I enjoyed Odysseus' journey, I hardly found myself emotionally invested in him. There wasn't some awesome arc where he finally overcomes the trauma of the war and losing his men. He just kind of gets over it, which probably has something to do with the runtime. Apparently, IMAX film projectors can only last for 3 hours, so Nolan had to cut down the film, which I think greatly impacts the story, especially for the third act, which felt kind of rushed. Maybe a 4-hour director's cut will help flesh some things out, but I don't know if that would save the messy script that seems to be more interested in spectacle than telling a compelling mythological story. I don't want to make it seem like I hated everything about this film. There are moments of greatness sprinkled throughout that had me on the edge of my seat. The Trojan horse, the underworld, the final confrontation, so many things to love and revisit. I just wish I could understand what was going on. Like I said, how I feel about the Odyssey is how I feel about Interstellar. These are fantastic films with brilliantly abstract concepts that I love, but the writing needed to go through another round of drafts with a different screenwriter. This movie felt epic at times, and I'm never gonna take that away from it. The Odyssey gets 6 to 7 out of 10, and I seriously mean that. It's somewhere in between there. Alright, that's enough of me. I'll catch you guys next time.